In your book you wrote about convergency, the theory that actually the Western countries merge into one big organism with Russia.
Well, to begin with, convergence as theory came very early in 20th century. As you know, historically, the socialist movement in the world got split at the beginning of the 20th century into what they called Bolsheviks and Menshevics. Mm-hmm. Now, the difference between them was not very significant. Simply, Mensheviks wanted to achieve the same goals, only by more slow means, reformists rather than revolutionary. Mm-hmm. But the fact remains that while Bolsheviks have won in the East, the Mensheviks have won in the West. And that's what lots of people in former communist countries did not realize. I didn't realize it too until I came to the West, and suddenly discovered that they have more socialism than we used to have in the Soviet Union, simply because socialists have won here. I mean, look at Britain. They have the same medical system as the Soviet Union used to have. It's free, you know, and as being free in the Soviet Union, it didn't work, and being free in the West, it doesn't work either. So that's, you suddenly realize that they introduced a lot of socialism into their lives throughout 20th century, gradually, slowly, not through revolution, right? And the theory was, mostly popular among the left wing and the socialist parties, that one day this divide between Bolsheviks and Mensheviks will be closed, that Bolsheviks will become milder, they will abandon their revolutionary zeal and violent nature, and they'll become what they call socialism with human face. Yeah. While the West would increase their socialist features, and then there will be no difference, there will be convergence between the West and the East. So convergence is, first of all, ideological concept, which brings together these two worlds and creates one world out of them, which, according to this concept, is going to be paradise. There will be no social problems, no wars, no poverty, no crime. As usual with socialist utopia, they give you a beautiful picture of the ultimate triumph of their concept.
New brave world.
Yeah, but it was in theory for a long time. Throughout 20th century, if you looked on the relations between the West and the East, it was always these two things which formed the political reality. When Bolsheviks felt themselves strong, they would fight against Mensheviks. When they feel themselves threatened, in crisis, in difficulty, they would always pretend to be Mensheviks. Like Gorbachev with his so-called new thinking. Read his new thinking. New thinking is socialist. It's not communist. You know, that's very simple. So they would always indicate to the Western fellow travelers that they're about to change. And therefore, the left forces of the West come to their rescue, helping them. As soon as the crisis is over, they will go back to their former positions as Bolsheviks and will reject socialists. So socialists throughout 20th century were taken by this deception several times. They helped Lenin during an peace, they helped Stalin during a war, they helped Brezhnev during Détente policy. It was always going in circles. And always this carrot of convergency would be used to attract the socialist donkey. You know, it was very good device for them. Now, ultimately, in the middle of 80s, they suddenly understood that the crisis of socialism is everywhere, in the West and in the East. In the East, Gorbachev started his perestroika because socialism did not produce anymore; it was bankrupt. In the East, in the West, they had the same problem coming to them when socialism became a big burden on national economies. They couldn't cope with it. So they decided that they would have a convergency. And the agreement between Gorbachev and Western left-wing parties was formulated in the middle of 80s, with Gorbachev coming up and announcing a new policy of our common European home,
Exactly.
he said. So in the West, it was formulated like a European idea. In reality, it was a socialist idea. And in the East, it was formulated like a reform of the Soviet Union. So there was attempt at convergence. Now, attempt was unsuccessful, as we know, because the Soviet system could not withstand this degree of freedom. As soon as it was given, people took everything, and they overthrown the system in Eastern Europe as well as in the former Soviet Union. So the convergence stopped because there was nothing to be converged with. It continued in the West under the name of European Union, but it did not go in the East. And gradually it started absorbing the East European countries into its system, with Eastern Europe becoming members of the European Union, and thus being connected to this concept, to this project. And finally in the Soviet Union, or rather in Russia, we had a restoration process started by Putin and others. With the KGB coming to power, they have renewed the old policies of the Soviet Union in foreign relations, trying to restore the sphere of influence of the Soviet Union everywhere, and returning some elements of Soviet system in Russia. And therefore, once it was consolidated, it renewed its effort of having convergence with the West. So in today's world, Putin is very happy about the European Union. I mean, he is very critical of everything in the West, be it national governments or international organizations, except one, European Union. He's very full of praises for it. In his articles, in his speeches, you remember his speech in Munich, which kind of alerted everyone because it was so hostile. He was hostile to everything but European Union. Just look at it. So he suddenly felt that he can now return to the old project.